Thank you guys for the invitation. I will try to be brief because yesterday I tried this presentation and it took me 2 hours, so I will speak quickly. So what we got here, we do not got, yeah, he's back. Yeah, he is back. We got Adomas Mickevičiaus just before they put him in the coffin in Istanbul. But looking on this guy, probably you know him, we need to explain who he actually was. Adomas Mickevičiaus, or also known as Adam Mickiewicz. So, you know, he claimed himself Lithuanian, and Polish national epic poem begins with the word, "O Lithuania, my motherland." Yeah, weird. Okay, so his father probably was from Belarusian nobility. His mother could be Jewish, actually. He boasted that, but maybe it was only just to make angry Polish immigrants. But his wife was Jewish, for sure, from convert, so-called Frankist movement. His kids had French citizenship, so in the consequence he is called the Polish greatest national poet. And of course I don't share this viewpoint. I'm rather towards another poet from Lithuania who is known better as the Polish poet Czesław Miłosz, or Czesławas Miłoszas, who told that Mickevičiaus was a poet of the Commonwealth. So, of course, it is not that. I will elaborate on this, making Mickevičiaus more Polish later. So, let's speak about another thing, about upiors. Upior is a kind of undead, but can be also living upior. And in the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, during 17th and especially 18th century, upiors were a plague. Especially in the Ukrainian part, there was like every village was somehow infested by undead people. So you don't know it probably from history books or, you know, from school. I didn't know it either. In Poland we don't speak about our undead, but a great part of enlightenment from the Commonwealth was devoted to this upior problem. When you look at etymology of the word upior and behavior of the upiors, you may notice it is the same thing as vampire. But since vampires were appropriated by the Western culture, they were deformed, transformed, and they were somehow eradicated in this original form, while upior figure remained till beginning of 20th century and maybe later. So here we got a fragment of Jan Bohomolec's treatise, which has very interesting title, "Devil in its True Form Exposed," by the question if do upior exists. So it was the most extensive upior polemic or undead polemic during Enlightenment. And I don't say that Polish Enlightenment, Commonwealth Enlightenment, worldwide, because the topic of vampires was very, very hot and popular among Enlightenment writers. So we can read in this polemics an attempt to define what an upior is. So take a look. It's a body of dead, in some way revived. What is behavior of the upiors? They leave their graves to raid houses, strangling whomsoever they can, and if unable to defeat someone, will wrestle with them, murder them, suck their blood. This blood sucking, he took from actually Western works about vampires. Yes, so guys, when you will meet an upior, remember, don't think that you will be somehow sucked and infested and you will become upior yourself. No, you will simply die. This vampiric infestation is totally made up. Okay, it could happen in the Balkans, but it's made up by the English Romanticism. So, but sometimes upiors from the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth also drank blood, but it is a question of taste, simply. Milk would also work. So, climb onto altars. Remember that one. Climb onto altars in the church, bleed on them, break candles. Remember breaking candles. And commit numerous other indecencies and murders. Indecencies in this sexual sense. We know that from folklore. So why is that so? And at the ending, it is the work of evil spirits. And Bohomolec here suggests that it is the opinion of common folk. Nothing more wrong than that, because it wasn't opinion of common folk, but it was an opinion of learned theology. So we got here another treatise by Jesuit priest Jerzy Gengel entitled Eversia Theismi seu protestata. Eversia Theismi, it means destroying of the atheism. So it is like polemics with Cartesians. And here he gave us another definition of upior. So it is a cadaver, it's a corpse, it's a dead body, which is seen to rise from the grave by itself. It wanders, it does more or less the same which was put down by Bohomolec, and such a corpse is called an upior from the vocatur ex rutenico upior, sin muliebre upierzyca. So it is like from Ruthenian, that means practically from Ukrainian upier, and if it's a woman, it's upierzyca. And we got here explanation how this evil spirit works with the body. So, simply, to put it simply, in the interpretation of the clergy, this undead, this upior, this vampiric being, but I will not repeat that upiors are vampires, are simply the dead bodies possessed by a devil. Because every living person at the time could be possessed by a devil. So therefore, when we got dead body, a devil can enter there more freely because there is no soul inside. But there was some preparation to that, like a pact with a witch, but I will not elaborate on it because it is one interpretation of this kind of undead. The other, which was very folkloric and very more archaic, will be elaborated by Mickevičius himself soon. But you got here also a habitat of upiors. So where we can find upiors in Poland, in Rutynia, originally is Russia, but Russia, of course, is a stolen name right now. Russia refers to Rutynia, to Ukraine. It's Russia Rubra, it's Ukraine. In Lithuania, of course, or in Hungary. So, guys, we got this situation. And as you can see, one picture doesn't fit the others. Guess which one? So yeah, by Poland, of course, we got Greater, Lesser Poland. By Rutynia, Ukraine, we got Ukrainian, Rutynian part of the Commonwealth. By Lithuania, we got Grand Duchy, especially the Slavic part. So the Lithuanian-speaking part is need to be researched by you, because I cannot do that. So the Hungary. The Hungary, when you look at the map from early 18th century, it's probably Slovakia, because it's before Habsburgs taken the Banat land in Balkan and discovered their vampires. So it is too early to say that Hungary here in Gengel work refers to Balkans. Probably it is like Carpathian area, which is, still by Hungarians treated as, Hungarians have this square, so let's skip it. And let's get back to Mickevičius. What is important? Upiors were, after Bohomolet's work, were somehow banned by and discarded by the learned people. So there was a literary taboo. We do not write about living dead, witches, and so on. When the Western Romanticism started, the classicals, especially from here, like in that whole former Commonwealth. So it was Śniadecki. Sorry, haven't checked what was Śniadecki in Lithuanian. So Jan Śniadecki, he was professor here in Vilnius, but also Jungilas, natural history professor here, and the other, they were writing like the upiors are like a product of ignorance, belief of our grandfathers, now fortunately discarded. Let's not write about this silly stuff. And here appears our beloved poet, who in the first volume of his poetry introduced only a word, somewhere upiór. So in Świtezianka or Świteziete, he put this sentence, you roamed at the night as an upiór. On in Lilie or Lelias, the lady looking like an upiór, and her late husband, who was killed by her, is also called an upiór. And in his poetic manifesto, Romantyczność or Romantica, the ending we got here, canonical, is like, you don't know the living true, you don't see the miracle, have heart and look inside your heart. The discarded version, as you can see, the first was, if you want to see an upiór and a miracle, or if you want to see upiors and miracles, have heart and look into your heart. So it was a breaking of cultural, literary taboo. And what happens next? Next volume, the second volume of Mickevičius' poetry with Dziady, Velines, and what is, as he called it, something like a prologue to Velines, as a poem entitled Upiór. Upiór as a yeah, very, crazy orthography of Polish language at the time. So it is upiór, in fact. And here we got a fragment of a letter sent by Mickevičius to Czechot, didn't check, sorry, Czechot from Kaunas to Vilnius to his friend Jan Czechot, and he wrote there, as promised, upiór is on its way to you, since the old gods are absent, so we don't have any kind of mythology. The muse flirts with devils. It's even obscure, it's more than flirts, but it's like more intercursive. No wonder such monstrosities are created. So, as you can see, probably Mickevičius' knowledge about upiors still was very ecclesiastical. There was some devilish in upiors, but the upior from the title is the same figure as Gustav in fourth part of Velinus, published in the same volume. So it is a young suicide who committed suicide because of his unfortunate love. He was casted off by his sweetheart. So it is very biographical, yeah, it's alter ego of Mickevičius himself. And sorry, something happens with my stuff here. Ah, yeah. We are back. And the third part of Mickevičius, because it's second part, fourth part in the second volume of poetry, and in the fourth volume of poetry, we got the third part, which is the strongest. It's a masterpiece of Romanticism. So we got this Conrad character who is transformed here in Vilnius, in prison. Yeah, the prisoner writes, Gustavus obit, hic natus est Conradus. So Gustav has died, Conrad is now born, and Conrad sings his song about vengeance. So yeah, there is a Lithuanian translation, but it's very unfortunate with terminology, so it's like literary translation. So my song was already in the grave, already cold, it felt blood, peered from beneath the earth, and like an upior, it rises, hungry for blood, and demanding blood, demanding blood, demanding blood. Yes, vengeance, vengeance, vengeance on the enemy, with God or even against God. Note that upior is hungry for blood and is demanding blood. As I said before, this Polish, Lithuanian, Ukrainian upior didn't crave blood like vampire. But let me read another stanza. And the song says, I will go in the evening. First I must bite my countrymen brothers, and whoever I sink my fangs into their soul must, like me, become an upior. So we got this infestation, which I said before was absent in our folklore, in our historical sources. Upior can kill you, but not make you another upior. And then we have later, we will go and drink the enemy's blood, we will hack his body to pieces with an axe, nail his hands and feet down, so that he does not rise and become a vampire. Sorry for this word vampire, I don't know why it's that, maybe some, Freudian slip. So yeah. We must take his soul to hell, and together we will sit on it until we squeeze out its immortality, and as long as it lives, we will keep biting in. So this description how to get rid of an upior is very practical. We got press news, police reports that peasants somewhere hacked a body of suspected upior and drank blood. So yeah, in the former Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, we were so hardcore that it was us who drank the suspected undead blood, not the other way. Yeah, guys. But of course, this song is very political. It's very political. The mentioned enemy, vengeance on the enemy. The enemy is still the same. Yeah. So hopefully we will one day, or maybe Ukrainian heroes will squeeze out its immortality. Sooner, better. Guys, Mickevičius wrote this part of Veliness in Dresden at the beginning of his immigration, great immigration after November Revolution or November uprising. He was in Dresden where he met another poet from Vilnius, Antoni Edward Odyniec. He was a bad guy. And because he was a bad guy, you marked him in Wikipedia that he was Polish, I suppose. But he was from Vilnius, and he was also in circle of philomaths. Why he was bad guy? He started to work with Russians simply. When he got back from the exile, he started praising Tsar and doing very unpleasant stuff. But at that time, he was simply a conservative branch of philomaths. He was very Catholic, and he was a translator. He was a translator of English poetry. So when Mickevičius published his translation in Paris of Gyaur, simultaneously in the same volume, Odyniec published his translation of Corsair. And if you know Corsair by Lord Byron, you got as a protagonist there a fellow whose name is Conrad. And of course, it was inspiration for Conrad from Veliness. And there is, we know how it was because they got a lot of time, and Odyniec gave to Mickevičius a volume of works of Byron. He told, you know, in Vilnius, back in time, you started translating it. Maybe you should translate it to the end. You got time. So Mickevičius started to read and translate this Gyaur poem. And then he came to this part of Lord Byron poem. But first on earth as vampires send, the corse shall from its tomb be rent, then ghastly haunt the native place, and suck the blood of all the race. Therefrom thy daughter, sister, wife, at midnight drain the stream of life, and so on. And he translated it, of course, the word vampire is translated as an upior, as a very canonical, we got vampire, it's an upior simply. But after translating that, Mickevičius felt that great bucket with poetry fell on his head, and he started to write Veliness third part we have just seen. So this vampirization of an upior is done by the English poetry. He simply implemented into our folklore something totally external, not existent, but it was very good political concept. Rhetorically, it's perfect. And how Mickevičius could learn more about this vampire infection and drinking blood, because here we got a footnote by Byron himself or the publisher that see more in Mr. Southey work in notes on Talaba. It was Robert Southey. You probably know him, but you don't know that you know him. He published a poem, Talaba the Destroyer. Yeah, it sounds like a name of cheap heavy metal band, dark metal band. Talaba the Destroyer, yeah. Very grim, frostbitten, yeah. But there was a small selection of sources about Balkan vampires, and only on these few sources this whole concept of Western vampire was created. So it is very colonial. And Byron himself, he despised Southey. He was convinced that he's simply silly little poet. And yeah. You know that? The story about three bears and Goldilocks. It is the greatest work of Robert Southey. Yeah, he wrote that. Yeah, so we got Mickevičius as a guy who introduced upiors to poetry, to romantic poetry in Polish language. Maybe it will be good to poetry of here local romanticism. Then he vampirized the upior figure. He changed it because of political reasons under influence of Western English romanticism. And here we got another phase of Mickevičius as an upior researcher. While on exile in Paris, he started courses of Slavic literature at Collège de France. So in Collège de France, he gave 2 lectures which mention upior or upior lore. And he got very fresh publication of upior, wrote by mysterious writer Dalibor. Mickevičius was convinced that this guy is from Czech. He's Czech. He's from Prague. Because he read article published in periodic from Czech Museum. So what we have here, something totally new interpretation. Upior isn't an undead created by infesting dead body by evil spirit. Isn't possessed dead body. It is human and natural phenomenon. So upior is a human being, albeit extraordinary and impossible to explain with reason. And upior is said to be born with dual heart and dual soul. So if you are familiar with two spirits concept from First Nations of America, so-called, you got the same here. 2 hearts, 2 souls. So one soul is good, another soul is evil. One heart is good, another heart is negative heart. So there is like a community of upiors. They can contact each other. And yeah, we got this very new attempt to upior lore. And Mickevičius was the first guy who told it ex cathedra during his lectures at the Collège de France. But you know, he also was the first lecturer who told his students that there are psychedelic mushrooms in Siberia, and he craved this mushroom because in one memoir of exile in Siberia, he read that this general from Kościuszko uprising, he was given the mushroom by one local who told it is a treasure of this earth, of this land. Try this treasure. And he, of course, got very nice trip. He described this trip as very prophetical, and Mickevičius wrote that I want this mushroom too, but he was in Paris, so he got only champignon. So yeah, guys, who was this Dalibor guy who wrote this article quoted by Mickevičius? He wasn't Czech. He was Ukrainian. He was from Lviv. It was Ivan Wachilewicz, who also used the Polish form Jan Wagilewicz or his nickname Dalibor. He was a great person. He was the first ethnographer researching the Ukrainian folklore and the first ethnographer who wrote ethnographical works in Polish. So, but he didn't publish it because his life was very sad. I will not elaborate on it, try to find some mention about this figure because it was very important person, one of creators of modern Ukrainian identity. Love this guy. And here is the article Mickevičius himself read. So it is o upierach a widmach. In Czech, published in Czasopis Czeskiego Muzeum in 1840, so year after it was quoted by Mickevičius. So look, it was really fresh from Prague to Paris, and we can read in Czech something because I can read it, but wait, yeah, dwuduszne I dwuserdeczne. So we got this concept of two souls, two heart, and we got even something more, but I will skip it because the original, this article was only a part of a great work of Wachilewicz entitled Slavic Demonology, and this manuscript was left simply in the magazine of former Ossolineum for 180 years. So Ukrainian scholars ignore it, but because it's in Polish, so maybe it's some Polish stuff. Actually, it's this very first research. I was going to edit it and publish it, but somebody decided to invade illegally Ukraine, but fortunately Stefanik National Scientific Library of Ukraine in Lviv digitized this manuscript, sent it, so we got it, guys, and it's something really great. It's just look, as it's in Polish, so it will be better for me that we got istoty dwuduszne I dwuserdeczne. Here we got a gloss sercowe. So yeah, that sounds better. So beings with two hearts and two souls. And upiors and widmas, wiedźmas, Ukrainian witches, Ruthenian witches, are also, because of that, like their two spirits, fellows from America, gender fluid, or even transgendering during life. Upiors, till they are 7, every new moon, they change their gender because they are somehow half and half. So that's a great piece of research. It's open our perspective to some shamanistic complex with upior beings, especially they are human beings with this some kind of superpowers. So let's see this from late 19th century ethnographical report from the Lesser Poland, somewhere around Kraków. We got a figure of strzygoń or strzyga. It's the same as upior, because we, and in the Commonwealth, we got 3 or 4 main names of this undead figure. The first, upior, which from Gengel we know it came from Ukraine to the Polish language, ex ruteniko upior, but its etymology is Turkic. It's probably Tatar word or maybe Kipchak. somehow adapted by Eastern Slavic languages in medieval times, and then transferred to Polish, where it became like the main word for undead. Strzygoń, stryga is a Roman word from stryg, stryga, stria. You maybe know it from The Witcher. There is a monster called Striga, but of course it wasn't a monster. It was simply undead. It was a living person, human beings, unnecessarily living, but living for a time and then dead and undead. And the third one was wieszczy, wieszczy, wieszczyca, wieszczy. You may know that Mickevičius among Poles is called wieszcz. That means prophet, bard, someone who is inspired by a spirit of prophecy and poetry. And it is funny that in only one with Slavic etymology description of upior figure, it is called wieszczy. So yeah, it sounds good. He was wieszcz. Wieszcz means, let's check. It's like, yeah, let's make him already dead. Mickevičius died in 1855 when he was preparing troops, Polish and Jewish troops, to fight Russians during Crimean War. Yeah, great. So another thing which makes him great guy. He died in Istanbul, and because he died, it was suspected he died because of cholera. The rules of quarantine had been signed here, and he was like almost a year staying in a zinc coffin in Istanbul. That zinc coffin was, the metal coffin was in a wooden coffin, and this wooden coffin was in another wooden coffin, something like that. It was the big structure in Istanbul waiting for a pass from the Ottoman and French government to transport him to Montmorency cemetery near Paris, because his last will was to be buried with his wife, Celina Szymanowska, who died like a year before and was buried there near Paris. But guys, there is one city in Poland. Maybe you visited this city. It is called Kraków or Krakow. Yeah, have anyone visited? Yeah. They have very strange king. Yeah, I'm from Warsaw, so you know there's antagonism between Kraków and Warsaw. Yeah, they like to collect great dead Lithuanians. Jogailo, here somewhere here. Czesław Miłosz, also he's in this church probably. And finally, they knew that there is Mickevičius and he's already dead. Maybe we can do something about it. During the partition time, Krakow was a part of autonomy in Habsburg Empire. So they had very good political position to get Mickiewicz and bring him into Krakow. But it is strange, because during his lifetime, Mickevičius had never visited Krakow. When you look at the today border of Poland, he visited only one place. Guys, only one place in the greater Poland. So, of course, we can look at the map. Lithuania, many places. Corner of Belarus, yes. Russia, of course. Crimea, Germany, Prague, Italy, France, of course. Eventually, Turkey. Turkey, sorry. he didn't even know exactly what Krakow is. He knew that there is a university. He exchanged some letters with scholars from Krakow University because they were like, maybe we should invite this Lithuanian, maybe he will give us some lectures, some courses. Yeah, but actually, no. Of course, he didn't visit Warsaw as well. But he included Warsaw in very negative light, of course. No, not just everyone, because these guys from insurrection, revolutionaries were presented as a positive person, but the critics from Warsaw were, I will tell you something about them. So, yeah. Krakow guys decided to get Mickiewicz against his last will. He wanted to be buried alongside his wife. They took him from the cemetery in Montmorency in 1890. And as you can see how Mickiewicz looked after exhumation, his body was decomposed. He was embalmed somehow, but maybe it was simply bad embalmer who tried to preserve his body. So after that, the coffins were changed. They took new coffins, and they waited to transport him to Krakow. And look, it was the biggest biggest manifestation of Polishness during non-existence of Poland. From every corner there was a delegation of people like Jews, peasants, academics, professors. Everyone was tributing somehow to the poet. Who is here in this humble coffin? He lies. And they buried him in royal necropoli at Wawel Castle. So we got Jogailo, his descendants, monarchs, Hedwig, and so on, and we got crypt with Mickevičiaus. And take a look at funeral ribbons. We got a lot of funeral ribbons preserved, which survived this ceremony. So what we have here? To the skyrocketing eagle Mickiewicz Volunteer Fire Brigade in Zakopane. For Adam Mickiewicz, as a tribute from the Polish virgins of the city of Lublin, City Casino in Lviv, to the immortal bard. Guys, that's crazy, you know? Polish virgins of the city of Lublin. But it is more crazy. Look, grave diggers cutting Mickevičiaus' coffin into pieces. And these pieces of coffin were sold as souvenirs during this. You got thousands of visitors in Krakow. So people decided to make money. Of course, I think the majority of these tin fragments were fakes. But still, if someone would give me this, I would, of course, I would venerate it. But it's still as like, holy relic. It's batshit crazy, cutting his tin coffin. Yeah, and of course some ugly souvenirs, kitschy postcards. With resemblance. It's supposed to be Mickevičiaus there, believe me. So people were, of course, making money of this great event. But what happened next? Because year later, after this great funeral, Franciszek Wójcik, who was folk activist, like a peasant activist. In the interwar period, he was even a minister in the Gov. He wrote and sent a letter to a newspaper called Polski Lud, Polish Folk. It was like a newspaper for peasants, that there is a problem because people, the folk, started to say that the bad weather around Krakow is caused by transfer of Adam Mickiewicz's remains to Krakow. They explain it by suggesting that Mickiewicz is some kind of planetnik who controls the clouds. Planetnik in Polish folk beliefs was a person who can control the weather. And also it was a person who got two hearts and two souls in some sources, according to some sources. So people in the countryside heard of Adam Mickiewicz and his etymology, how this word poet was somehow modified and translated into planetnik. And someone recounted that where Mickiewicz was initially laid to rest, it kept raining, which is why the local people demanded that he be taken by his own people as they were in complete despair. So the Frenchman told to the Polish, get this guy out of here because it is still raining, bury him in your land. Yeah, therefore it is said that the gentry and priests will take him from the castle, that means Wawel, and throw him into Vistula river to float away. For the country will suffer because of him. So here's a manifesto that which says we need to explain to the peasants who actually Mickiewicz, of course here we got Mickiewicz already, who he was. And this belief that a person, that undead can bring this natural disaster is widespread there. We know it even from Wachilewicz. So upiór can bring drought or rain, flood, downpour. So this kind of undead can control the weather. And this town of Ropczyce is nearby Krakow, so we see that this belief was known there. And here some press cutting that people were attributing this bad weather, droughts, downpours to undead, to upiors, to suicide, who were upiors as well. So I will skip it. And here we go, some press news that they were, so they drowned a hangman taken from grave. So during that time, it is from interwar period, guys, and it's from times of Mickiewicz burial in Krakow. So when you got bad weather, drought or floods, you need to check your cemetery. And if there is a suspicion that there is an upior, you need to simply throw the guy to a river. And he will sail away. But it wasn't only this letter of this Wójcik guy. Here we go, a report by Seweryn Udziela, one of the most influential and the most important ethnographer from Krakow and area from Lesser Poland. And we got a report of one peasant saying, in the past we didn't have such wet years, or maybe summer, but years probably, as we do now. The wet years began only after they brought Mickiewicz from us, to us from France. As long as he was in France, the years were wet there, and now France has dry years, while we have wet ones, because Mickiewicz was a planetnik. So it's, it's 1897, so it's like 7 years after burial. So this article, published in ethnographical periodical, was taken by a popular popular press who they were writing articles like press news. Haha, it's so funny. Mickevičius is considered a planetnik by the folk. So yeah, you know, they are uneducated, they are ignorant. So we need to tell them who was Mickiewicz. And as an answer to that small press news, piece of news, Udziela himself responded with a quotation he learned from an old woman in one village neighboring Krakow. So what she told? You think Mickiewicz is lying up the castle? Oh, sure, everyone says so. And the gentry light candles for him. But he ain't there. When they buried him, he got up at night breaking candles. Remember from Bohomolec what upiór does? Breaking candles. Breaking candles on the altars. We're on the altars, climbing on the altars, and causing a ruckus, messing everything up. It went on for nights, one after another. The priest didn't know what to do. So one night they took him out of his coffin and sent him down the Vistula. That's right, sir. He ain't in that coffin anymore. Why was he causing such trouble at night? Because he had an evil spirit inside him. After all, they say he spoke in verses. Can a person like that be good? Do I speak in verses or anyone else in the village? No way! It was surely that evil spirit talking through him. So guys, this description of Strzygoń character is here repeated because this evil spirit isn't like a devil. It is second spirit, is a second soul, this evil soul which remained inside Mickevičius' body. So, as you can see, we don't know actually when Mickevičius is. Maybe he floated down the Vistula and finally arrived through Baltic Sea to Lithuanian shore. We cannot be sure. Maybe he's back somewhere. And here we got a dictionary of Polish dialects by Jan Karłowicz. He was, of course, Lithuanian, so he is probably Karłowicius, I guess. And in his dictionary, we can learn that the word wieszcz, this description, immortal wieszcz, yeah? Nieśmiertelny wieszcz, is a man who is destined to become an upiór after death. And it was published in Kraków 1911, and we know that word wieszczy, as down here, is among Kashubian folk used as a description of upiór, but this word wieszcz not so frequently. So probably it was somehow inspired by this folk opinion around Krakow. So it is fulfilled. And guys, to be honest, we got here statistics of precipitation. Yeah, I'm going to an end. Precipitation according to observation. So 1887 and 1890, just after the burial, we got more than 2 times more of rain. He was actually really angry at these Krakow guys that they took him from his wife. And you know what? In the crypt when he is buried right now, it's also buried Juliusz Słowacki, who was his antagonist. So, guys, yeah, and we got here even articles about this downpour and catastrophe, the biggest, largest lightnings, hail which killed all the sparrows in Krakow and so on. It was like, you know, Armageddon there. So it is description of anger, of wrath of Mickevičius. And why? Look. Yeah, that's the last slide, fortunately. Look, this burial in Wawel, in royal necropoli, was a kind of disarming a ticking bomb, because the socialist movement in former Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth would like to take Mickevičius as their patron. And the conservatives, especially from Krakow, wanted to make him, he's a poet of nobility. Poet nobility, his newspaper, La Tribune des Peuples, was closed by French government because it was too Jacobine, it was too radical for them. So he was leftist practically, and they wanted to kill this political upior by burying him in the royal necropoli. The other thing was making Mickevičius more Polish. Right now, in school in Poland, you do not learn that he was a poet of the former Commonwealth. He was a Polish poet. And guys, it is the opinion of Warsaw critics about Mickevičius' poems. As a half-wit released from the insane asylum, Mickiewicz can't think, Mickiewicz is filthy. It's even more insulting, this dirty Lithuanian dishwasher girls, it is in original. So, guys, you can see that Mickevičius himself got angry and took revenge on the Krakow guys, turning into undead. Thank you so much.